Hello, welcome to my channel, Vicky Mithi. It was really hard to choose a name for this channel because the YouTube channel pool is full. I don't know where do I fit in here. So I just chose a name that had to do with the thing I'm going to talk about today, and that is vampires. And what are vampires? Mythological creatures. At least that's what we think, that's what we believe. So Vicky Mithi it is, and it also rhymes a little bit with mighty, which means powerful. So yeah, I am Mithi. I love myths and mythological creatures. So here I am talking about vampires and calling my YouTube channel Mithi. So I think I will be compromised to talk about mythological stuff, but I don't know, I will talk about everything for a little while, and I will try to make this video very organic. This is also a practice for me. This is part of my psychological therapy and well-being, and also I can use this as a way to practice my English. So let's go. Vampires. Since when do we know vampires? Since when have they been around? We think they are mythological creatures and that they don't exist, but there was a time when people thought they were very, very real. And since when did this legend come to be? So I did a digging. I did my navigation on the internet and ended up in Wikipedia. I mean, Wikipedia doesn't have any incorrect information, right? That's what I've heard. So I read that Wikipedia with a very, very happy heart. First of all, let me tell you why did I choose to talk about vampires, and why are vampires a part of my mind, a part of something I think about before I go to sleep. And it hasn't always been like that. I'm not like a crazy girl obsessed with vampires. I mean, at least I wasn't 2 months ago. Maybe now I am, but 2 months ago I was a very normal woman. But let me tell you, this year I decided to be a cinephile. I told myself, okay, I'm going to watch a bunch of movies, but I also grew interested in TV shows, very well-known TV shows. So I decided to watch some TV shows as well, and I started to look up for the TV shows or series that were nominated or winners of Emmys. And between those shows, I saw some clips of What We Do in the Shadows, and I didn't understand much just by seeing the clips used in their nominations. I just saw the clip and I thought this show was about a Halloween party gone totally wrong. And I mean, maybe it is about that, but it actually is a documentary about vampires. And when I knew that vampires were the main topic, fusioned with comedy, they totally bought me because I love vampires so much. I was a Twilight lover when I was a teen, and I loved Count Von Count when I was a kid. So now, as an adult, I freaking love What We Do in the Shadows because it contains two things I love a lot. Well, three things I love a lot: vampires, comedy, and the third one would be British actors. I love British actors. So it's like a show tailored to me. And I started watching this TV show like last week, and now I'm at season 3 out of 6. And I just started like last week, and I don't want this TV show to end because I love it with all my heart. But oh well, that's not the main topic. The main topic are vampires, and let me tell you, when I was a teen and a kid as well, I really loved vampires. I don't know, I just was a fan, and vampires were really trendy back in the day when I was a teen. We had Vampire Diaries, we had Twilight, we had Buffy, so we had also Van Helsing. So vampires were everywhere in my teenage years. And I remember when I was a teen that I read somewhere that some vampires were born during Holy Saturday, and guess who was born in Holy Saturday? Me. And I also think I have some little fangs. you know? So, of course, when I was between being a kid and being a teen, like in my pre-adolescence, like being a twin, I could swear to anyone that I was a vampire. I was missing the pale skin because I have really pretty tan skin, tan and olive skin, but I really wanted to have pale skin so that I could look like a vampire, but that wasn't my case at all. And what we do in the shadows also made me feel some kind of inclusion because we see a very handsome Middle Eastern man being a vampire, and I was like, you know what? He has almost my skin complexion and he is a vampire. Yes, who can be a vampire now? I mean, I'm an adult and I still want to fit in. I feel like Guillermo. But anyways, now back to the beginning. Yeah, I started to think about since when are vampires around us, being real or not, being a myth or not. Since when have we been talking about vampires? So, Wikipedia told me a lot of information. They told me that it's not like Wikipedia called me and told me, but I read that it all started during Europe's worst pandemics. And of course, a lot of people started passing away, and we didn't really know why they were passing away because back then we didn't really have any doctors, any medicine, and the only human conclusion was vampires, demons. It was what we knew from religion, from the Bible, from many myths, from Judaism, Catholicism, Christianism. And if people pass away without explanation, in the human logic back in the day, the result would be demons. But it kind of transformed into not only demons, but also some cadavers that aren't really dead and suck the blood or the vital essence of a human being for them to live. It was all a mess. We have a mythological creature crossover because that is kind of the definition of a mummy, the definition of a zombie, and also the definition of a vampire. And if you put it all together, they are like non-death mythological creatures. Like they are dead, but at the same time, they are cadavers trying to survive without a soul, just with the blood of other people who are actually alive. I imagine, and this may be kind of graphic, but during those pandemics, I bet a lot of people passed away, and there were, I imagine, a lot of bodies here and there. And if we think about ancient Europe, you may or may not think about their hygiene. I don't think ancient Europe people were very clean. So imagine the bodies of people that passed away. Of course, people would have nightmares thinking about those bodies coming to life. And when a person is really, really sick, you may think that they look like a dead body because they are consumed by the illness, and that's something that is not pretty, not funny at all. Wait a minute, I'm hearing an ambulance. Okay, anyways, that's something that's not pretty, not funny at all. That when some people fall sick, if they are very, very sick, they might look like a cadaver. And I think that's the case for many ancient European people back in the pandemic era. So it started all of this mess with the mythological creatures of people who passed away but aren't really on the other side, and like there is a bridge between heaven and earth and hell and whatever that resulted in vampires, zombies, mummies, and so on. But there's something really different from zombies and vampires and all of this. You may notice that vampires are identifiable because they suck blood or vital essence of living beings. That's something that is specified in the Wikipedia page. And it's funny because they describe vampires as consumers of vital essence of living beings, meaning they do not only consume blood, they do not only consume humans. So that makes room for characters like Twilight's vampires or energy vampires from What We Do in the Shadows, for example, Colin Robinson. Why? Because if vampires don't only feed from human beings, they can also feed from animals, like the vampires in Twilight who were vegetarian vampires and ate deers. And energy vampires consume energy from human beings in the workforce most of the time. So, if we put it that way, I know many other types of vampires who consume blood, human blood, animals, energy, and there's a bunch of stuff you can consume from a human being or from an animal, and I don't want to get into details. But maybe that's when a succubus takes place. I don't know, just for your imagination and for your consideration. Now, let's go again to the beginnings of the vampires. And turns out a lot of cultures have vampires on them just with different names. And at the end of the day, apparently, for example, zombies, they are also people who passed away but that the cadaver is alive, but they also eat brains and consume brains, and the brains make the zombies stronger. So zombies, if you really think about it, are a kind of vampire with a huge difference because zombies are usually portrayed as beings with no brain, with no brain or no soul. They're just dumb and hungry for brains, and even though they eat brains and that makes them stronger, they still don't hold any consciousness. Now, for vampires, vampires are intelligent. Vampires do have brains. In the mythology, vampires do have like a will to do things. They are independent, they are strong and willing to do the stuff they set their minds to, empowered, but at the same time they are cursed with the eternal life curse. Because when you have a limited amount of time in life, you choose to do what you want. You choose to have a dream and you put a limit. For example, I want to be 80 years old and be proud of what I did when I was 20 so that I can die happily ever after. But for vampires, it's not that simple because they live an eternal life. So if they accomplish something by 20, isn't impressive. If they achieve something at 80, it isn't impressive either. And it will be a cycle of never ending. They don't have a limit. They don't have a purpose. Let's put it that way. So, that's the main difference from zombies and from vampires. Vampires, maybe it is a curse for them to have a consciousness and to be intelligent, because it isn't the same as if they were zombies that, for example, they may live forever, but they don't care because they don't have a mind, they aren't intelligent, they don't really think anything. They are a blank page. For vampires, that doesn't happen, so vampires live in eternal desperation until a vampire hunter ends them. And now some idea came into my mind, and that is the fact that zombies don't really have a soul, but they are dead. So what happened to their soul? Maybe that's where the ghost mythology comes in. Now, back to vampires, because this is a video about vampires. Vampire hunters are a huge deal in the vampire mythology too. I remember being a kid and people usually telling us that vampires hated garlic. And honestly, that made me a little bit disappointed because I've always wanted to be a vampire, but I really like garlic and that's a shame. And let's say what other stuff. Oh, I also learned that vampires hate crosses. They don't really like the Bible or Jesus, and they also hate sunlight. Too bad, because I do love sunlight. And now that I've been talking about vampires non-stop for 20 minutes, I think I might be an energy vampire because I'm not saying anything really interesting and I do love the sound of my own voice. So that's why I am making this video. And I love garlic and I love sunlight. So I'm probably an energy vampire if you think about that. But anyways, back to vampire hunters. Guillermo is a perfect example of a vampire hunter portrayed in the What We Do in the Shadows TV show. But he is inspired by Van Helsing, a very famous fictional character in books and movies. And he is a vampire hunter. Now, here's something even more interesting about vampires and vampire hunters. Fandoms. Vampires are very recurrent in media, in TV shows, movies, books, games, and whatever. Vampire hunters too. So, some fandoms debate each other to which would be better, being a vampire hunter fan or a vampire fan. Honestly, if you ask me, I would tell you that being a vampire hunter fan is really NPC, is really lame because vampires are very, very cool. In a written character way, they live an eternal life, they are desperate, they are goth, they are romantic, they are elegant, and they seduce women and men. They can transform into different animals and they are smart, and vampire hunters just hunt them. And it's really lame if you think about it. So, what can we learn from vampires? Honestly, I'll be grateful if I have a long life, but I understand the laws of the universe and I understand each of our lives has a limit, so I want to live life to the fullest, and I hope you do too. You live every day with gratitude, and let's play pretend, let's play to be a vampire and be fun because they're free beings if you think about it. So let's play of being an energy vampire, but not in a Colin Robinson way, in a motivational way, in a self-help book way, and let's live every day to the fullest. Let's make people around us laugh so that we can have a nice life and a peaceful rest, because vampires are out here looking for a prey and we are not a prey, we are vampires too. Maybe that's my life goal, being a vampire. But honestly, let's face it, being a vampire isn't a state of existence, it is a state of mind. So I've decided to be a vampire with all the good qualities a vampire can have, like, for example, being smart, intelligent, elegant, pretty. So I will be it. And I would discard anything that's negative about vampires, for example, consuming other people's vital essence. So, I've been talking for 25 minutes about vampires, and I honestly think I did pretty good despite changing the topic every 5 minutes. But I think I got a really good thread of thoughts. Let me know if you like this video. I will make more videos weekly talking about every topic that crosses my mind, and I hope you'll stay here with me to to listen to it. And remember that this is just me doing this for my psychological well-being. So no judgments, no hard feelings. This is just me doing this to let it out of my chest and do something different. So thank you so much for listening if you did for 26 minutes, and I'm really grateful. Let's see you the next time. Bye.